in my kitchen, I have decided to follow the advice that I've seen online, and that is when you are trying to sow seeds in August in my zone 6 here in mid-Missouri, good idea to soak your seed. So that is what's happening. I've got spinach, cilantro, some beets, and some peas. So I'm going to soak this seed for about 4 hours. Supposedly that helps them get off to a faster start of germination. So that's the idea. And I'm going to try my best this year to try to grow some things and have a little bit of a fall harvest. So wish me luck. Well, here it is, August the 5th, and I am going to try to do something I don't normally do, and that is sow some seeds for a fall harvest. And so you saw me earlier. I decided to soak some of my seeds ahead of time. I've seen that recommendation. Apparently that helps germination, especially in this heat. And so I've got my seeds here. I've got my garden markers for what I'm going to be putting out. And I've got some frost cloth right here and scissors and some staples, because I am going to try the trick of covering some of the beds after I sow the seeds and water them in. I'm going to put that frost cloth over the top and water it. Supposedly, there's some gardeners online that do that so that, number one, the seeds stay moist, consistently moist, which is hard to do in August where I live. And as the seedlings come up, and they'll come up even through the frost cloth, underneath it, as the seedlings come up, it keeps the birds from swooping in and eating up the little seedlings. So I don't know. I'm going to try it. We'll see what happens. The first seeds I'm going to actually sow some more sugar snap peas. Now I grow them up this trellis and I grow them in the spring, but I've got cucumbers right now. And I've got this blank space where I had really poor germination. Actually, I think the cucumbers came up, and again, I think birds or something got in here, squirrels maybe, and ate the new little start. So I'm going to put some sugar snap peas in here and on each end. And so yeah, that's the first ones I'm going to sow today. So my strategy on these sugar snap peas, you can see they're really nice and plump now that they've soaked. I'm going to sow 2 next to each emitter hole, and these emitter holes are every 6 inches. The most important thing is to make sure your seeds don't dry out. That will help them germinate. So even though this is on drip irrigation, my drip only runs every 2 days in the summer, and so I will be coming out here twice a day, morning and late afternoon, early evening, to make sure that the seeds I've sown in here do not dry out. So I'm going to give them a nice good soak initially and hope that's going to lead to some good germination and delicious sugar snap peas this fall. All right, so I have cleared this space for more golden beets. I grew these earlier in the year and they did just not so great, actually. Never grown beets before, so I want to try it again for a fall harvest. So yeah, I'm going to sow them in this area on either side of that drip. And let me take a look here on the seed packet. It says sow them at about 1/2 inch deep. Eventually I need to thin them to 4 to 6 inches apart. So I'm going to sow them fairly heavily, and then I'll do the thinning once they germinate. So for my beets, my golden beets here, I am going to water them in, of course. So I planted them at about 1/2 inch, like it said. Put the seeds in there that were already hydrated, that had soaked for about 3 hours. So I'm going to water this in really well, and then I do think I'm going to cut some of that frost cloth for this little section. I'm going to lay it over, pin it down, and then I'm going to water the top of the frost cloth again and hope in this hot summer August heat in Missouri, I can come out twice a day and water the top of that frost cloth and hopefully keep these moist enough so that they'll have some decent germination. That's the idea anyhow. We'll see if this experiment works. I tried it on zinnias earlier in the year and it did okay, but I don't feel like my zinnias that I did the frost cloth method on germinated any quicker than the ones that I didn't. So I don't know, but the biggest problem I have are when the seedlings come up is, birds and stuff coming in, and they love those tender new shoots. So we'll see. It's always experimenting. All right, I've got my frost cloth on. I already watered them in once, but let's soak the top of this frost cloth down and see what happens. Frost cloth is permeable, so the water can go through, which is good, and keeps the soil a little bit cooler. So we'll see. All right, here's my next spot for my fall crops. And so what's left in this bed there are 3 dahlias, tubers I grew, and they are just growing so slowly, but there's loads of empty space here, so why not fill it? So on this end, I'm gonna plant some cilantro seeds that I've soaked, and on this end, I'm gonna plant spinach. If you've seen any of my former videos, I have such a terrible time growing spinach. So again, these need to be sown a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch deep, so not deep at all. So I'll put the seeds down. I will replace the drip hose here. I'll water them in. Then I'm going to use the frost cloth method also in this area. Okay, I've got my cilantro on this end and my spinach seeds on that end. And again, just gonna give them a good drink. I also put my drip tubing back. But again, for sowing seeds, I can't rely on my drip that only runs every other day. So water, water, water to keep those seeds moist so they have a good start. And again, this bed, I am going to try the frost cloth method. So I've got to cut a piece to fit this side of the bed. After I get them watered in, I'll do that next and water one more time. I hope this works. Time to water in again the cilantro and the spinach, the frost cloth. And just for the sake of experimentation, I am going to sow some arugula on one side of this opening and some mesclun lettuce mix on the other side. You can see I've got drip in here. I used to have some stock flowers that I grew, and they are early season and they're gone. So I pulled those out. So I've got this blank space by my peppers and my lemongrass and some zinnias. So I am not going to do the frost cloth method on this little section. I'm just going to scatter these in there, work them in lightly to the soil because they don't need to go very deep. Water them in well and keep an eye on them and compare how well this kind of seed germinates versus what I did over in my other boxes. All right, the last 2 crop seeds in the ground. Now let's water in this arugula and the mesclun, the lettuce mix seed. Arugula and mesclun seed maybe needs to go 1/8 of an inch deep. So basically what a lot of gardeners like me like to do is I just broadcast, I just sprinkle a bunch of seed in this area, rough it up with my fingers, and that is it. So, not every seed's probably going to get buried, but they just don't need to go very far down in the soil to germinate. So fingers crossed, I'll have some delicious fall arugula and lettuce mix.
Truth be told, this was really sort of an impromptu idea to get out here. I've got some other things I've got to get done this afternoon and get out here and get some seeds in the ground. And I wasn't even going to film, but I thought, you know what? I'm trying some new things for me, some new things that you might not have seen. And so, yeah, I'm not looking my best self today, but I'm so glad you came along. Well, it is time to stop. It is pushing over 90 degrees with about 90% humidity, which means I am ready to go inside and cool off. I don't usually plant seeds out in August. It's very early August in my Zone 6B Mid-Missouri garden, but I got some inspiration online to give it a go. So yeah, 6 different things in the ground. Tried to put the frost cloth down and using that to hopefully 1, keep my seeds moist, 2, keep the birds from eating the new seedlings once they germinate. So that's the idea. Take you along with me and of course show you the progress over the next few weeks and months, and fingers crossed I'm going to be able to enjoy all these delicious veggies in the fall. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe, and as always, happy gardening.